So what do you think the difference is between Asian and Asian American studies is?
Between Asian studies and Asian American studies? I guess Asian studies would be about studies specifically in Asia and covering Asian countries, and then Asian American would be about, I guess, Asian culture in America.
I guess that it's Asian studies would be more along the lines of people from in Asia. Asian American would be Asians who, I guess, of Asian descent in America.
Well, Asian American studies is you see Asians in the States and Asians that live in Asia.
None.
I actually don't know. I guess Asian would be more centered on like your actual heritage in Asia, whereas Asian American would be your presence in America.
Asian and Asian American study. Well, being Asian is part of your identity, so it's something that you cannot change, but Asian American study mainly should focus on the historical background and the sociological impact which the Asian race that it moved to the United States, and then its impact made to the American society.
Asian American Studies is about both Asians and Americans together, and Asian Studies just about Asians, so it's solely focused on that one race.
I think Asian American is like Asians born in America, and Asians is more like in the Asian actual country. So yeah.
I would say the difference between people who live in Asia and people who are Asian who live in America.
I do not know. Seriously, I do not know.
Alright.
What? Wait, say that again?
What do you think the difference is between Asian and Asian American studies is?
Asian is like people that don't come to the U.S. Asian American is like their culture. Yes.
You're supposed to go into Asian and Asian American studies.
I think that Asian studies would talk about studies in Asia and like their history and culture, and maybe Asian American culture would be the influence that Asian people have had in America and how their life and how they had to assimilate.
Not much of a difference.
Well, I guess Asian studies is more about the history of Asia, and Asian American studies would probably be more about second generation history, about people who started, Asians who moved over and started their lives here.
Asian studies would be people in Asia, like Japanese and Chinese. Asian American would be immigrants from that part of the world.
Asian studies is probably focused on the history of Asia over there, whereas Asian American studies is probably focused on the Asians that came to America who are now living in the country and the history of them arriving.
Yeah, they don't look like the same physically, maybe. But it's more difficult to understand Asian Americans than real American people.
I don't really know the difference between those two actually.
What do you think? I mean, Asian versus Asian American? Any possible ideas?
Well, Asian would be studying like actual Asia over Asia, and Asian American studying the people in America that are Asian.
Asian and Asian American studies.
Or history?
I think the difference is Asian American would be that of like Asian people of Asian descent who are living in America, and like the whole story of them like in America, like maybe people who are living in Chinatown in New York or Philadelphia or something. And Asian studies would be like maybe in their home countries like China or Korea or Japan.
Asian and Asian American studies, well obviously, Asian American studies is the Asian life in America, where we learn about, during the gold rush, where the struggles of the Chinese and also Chinatowns, that's how it's all set up. Asian studies, that's more the homeland, motherland, that's where we're at.
They're the same, I think. I assume that Asian is more about I don't know, Asian America is more about people that live in America, like going back to their history, and just Asian is like actual, like in China, and like everything that happens over there, I guess.
Being Asian and Asian American Studies. Well, Asian American Studies is obviously study the culture, and you learn about the history of Asia, I guess.
I think Asian studies are people that haven't lived in the United States, and Asian American studies are dealing with people and cultures of people who have lived in the United States and abroad.